Savage here, aka the Texas Trash Talker, coming at you from just outside of Austin. I am your zero waste expert and recycling nerd of 20 years. Today, I want to talk a little bit more about the true zero waste certification process. And many people have heard of LEED certification, which targets green building, retrofits, upgrades to energy and water infrastructure within a building. But zero waste is not really included in the LEED standards until recently. The true zero waste facilities certification process is also administered through the U.S. Green Building Council, or administered through Green Business Certification Inc., which is under the authority of the U.S. Green Building Council, just like the LEED certifications for energy and water. What I want to go over with you today, give you some value around what the true certification process is, how it was established, what the rigorous standards look like, and to, get your questions regarding, if you're considering it, we can go over some of the questions you may have about your specific industry or your specific type of building, what kind of waste is coming out of your facility or out of your office park or medical facility or whatnot. But there are thousands and thousands of businesses that are going through these waste reduction processes, and some of them are going through the true zero waste certification process in order to get that kind of stamp of approval from the U.S. Green Building Council that states, yes, this company has met all of the requirements for receiving this certification. So I think it's, something that hasn't really been addressed, something that maybe hasn't been as popular as the LEED certification. True is kind of new. I think maybe it's been around since 2015, 2017, somewhere in there, where those standards were being developed in the years before it rolled out at that time. So, it's something that many businesses don't know is actually out there. And it is something that is very beneficial to your business to have the certification, because not only can you use it in press releases and on your website, social media, you can put it all over your wherever your presence is in your marketing, but you can really use this to also attract and recruit top tier talent of those younger generation that wants to work for a company that is going to bat for the environment and is aligning with their environmental justice values as employees, and to build confidence in your own current customer base as well, that you're going the distance, and you're not just taking baby steps, that you're really going for the gusto there. So I want to make sure that you guys have a chance to ask questions, that you've got a lot of opportunity to understand the value around these types of programs through the True system, and how you can get a certified True facilitator such as myself to be able to come to your property and actually lead you through the process, if that's something that you're interested in. So we'll go over that a little bit later. First, I want to go over just a little bit more about the process. So, like I said, it's administered under the authority of the U.S. Green Building Council, and TRUE stands for Total Resource Use and Efficiency. And it's really the first zero waste certification program to assess facilities that are minimizing non-hazardous solid waste. So keep in mind that hazardous materials have to be treated entirely different than things like cardboard, plastics, glass, office paper, newspaper, metals, and even food waste. So the system was created using very extensive stakeholder agreements and engagement to develop consensus-based certification requirements. There were over 75 participants involved in making TRUE, and that included facility managers, policymakers, consultants, and product manufacturers, along with the elders in the zero waste space who have been leading the charge on zero waste and circular economy for 40 years. So the purpose and the benefits of the TRUE certification program is that it really recognizes facilities for their efforts to reduce waste and maximize conservation of resources that they're bringing into their business. It really promotes transparency and helps facilitate the definitions and pursue the standards of achieving zero waste goals. Now, when you think of the word zero waste, the global definition is actually 90% waste reduction from landfills and incinerators. And we do that through an entire materials hierarchy. So think of this as an inverted triangle. When we have refuse, reduce, reuse up at the top, we have things like repair and remanufacturing, refabrication in the middle. At the bottom is where recycling comes in. So that can be recycling for your cardboard, glass, paper, or whatnot, but also recycling of food from maybe your employee cafeteria. So there's a composting piece of it as well that comes into the recycling part of the materials recovery hierarchy. At the very, very tip of that inverted triangle is landfill and incineration, and it's considered a disposal method, not a diversion method. Remember, 90% diversion is the 90% is the top of the inverted triangle. The 10% at the bottom is sometimes what can't be recycled or was designed so poorly in the manufacturing process that there's no way to recycle it. So those are the kind of final 10% that need to be landfilled or incinerated, or the companies that produce the materials that can't be recycled or reused, remanufactured, refabricated, reduced upstream, right? Maybe they need to go back to the drawing board and redesign their products and rethink their material use. These products need to be designed for full recyclability. So like I said, the TRUE process promotes that transparency and really helps these facilities define and pursue the zero waste goals that I just laid out for you. So it really involves completing the TRUE application for submitting documentation to verify that you are complying with the 7 category credits. I believe there are 81 points that you can be awarded throughout the entire process. I believe in order to get the lowest standard of certification for TRUE, I believe you have to achieve at least 31 points. So facilities can earn these points based on the documentation that is measurable to the certification team over at the TRUE certification process. They're the ones that process the data, they process all of the documentation that you send in, and they're the ones that provide the certification if you achieved those 31 to 81 points. So the 7 categories, the first one would be one of the ones is reuse, and this credit category really focuses on programs and infrastructure that reuse materials on site or redistribute them to external parties. So, it's kind of a trash to treasure. Think of it that way. At least here in Austin, what's so great is that the city of Austin has been able to produce a materials marketplace. And this materials marketplace is an online platform that the city administers. They don't deal with really any of the transactional parts of it, but it is when one company in the local area posts that they either want to get rid of something or they need something, and another company will say, hey, we can use that, or we can donate that. There's an exchange that happens there. And between the two parties, the two companies that either need or want something and need or want something, they can come together on that platform and create an agreement, the transportation, logistics. They can agree on a price, or just do free exchange. So that's one example where reuse comes into play, where businesses can facilitate the exchange, either free or paid, through that reuse concept. Another is composting. Remember, we talked about food waste and how it's part of the recycling piece of the inverted triangle for the materials hierarchy. And in order to earn points on composting, the facility really should be able to divert food scraps, soiled papers, other compostable materials from the landfill through either on-site composting or off-site collection programs, where a company, a hauler, will come in and pick up your bins and they'll cart them off. They'll process the food scraps at their industrial facility. And then the more points that you can earn in the food waste category, the higher percentage of compostables you can divert, then you'll be awarded, the stronger points. But one thing to consider is that food waste also has its own inverted hierarchy, inverted triangle, where reduction and reuse, donation, repurposing, and yes, legal food donations are a thing through the Good Samaritan Act of 1996 under President Clinton. Businesses, you are off the hook whenever it comes to liability for donating foods that are kept to proper time and temperature codes through your health department in your state, and that those donations are made in good faith. You can actually get a tax write-off for the food donations that you make if you're tracking that and you're able to attach that to your tax filing. You get a credit for, I believe, 15% fair market value. So it again, all of the reuse and the upstream comes before composting, comes before recycling, right? And being able to do more upstream allows you to get more points through the true rating system. So next is one that we all know and love. It is through the recycling process. And we do have a quick question. Marvin Klitsky, I hope I pronounced that right. Paper towels burn or bury in landfills? So for paper towels, if they are brown and yes, used for drying hands. Yes, if they're the brown kind that are unbleached, I would say, there are some paper towels, like hand washing station paper towels, that are white, that haven't necessarily been bleached, but many of those brands are bleached. They can still go into kind of industrial composting facilities. Now, remember, hand washing towels, they have been, I guess, downcycled so much from other types of paper pulp that they've been pressed into that hand towel form that we're all used to, pulling it out of the machine. So it can't be recycled because the threads in the towels, they're really just not long enough to be of much value to a recycling plant. Now, if you bring them to a composting plant, absolutely. The first choice in the hierarchy would be, let's go ahead and compost those paper towels. If you don't have a composting program near you, or even a a composting program implemented in your business, then you're going to have to put them in a landfill facility or in your trash bin so it can be carted off by your hauler to a landfill. But paper towels can be composted if they're brown or the white kind. I would look out for bleaching. If they're bleached, you might want to consider a different type because your composter may not take the bleached type. But any other kind that's not dyed, with a certain color or bleached like that is most likely going to be accepted by your compost hauler. So great question. One thing that you can do with that is to put a specific compost bin right next to the door where you're exiting or entering the bathroom, and make sure that it is your composting color code, which would typically be like a green bin with a green liner, an eco bag liner that is biodegradable, not a plastic bag, because remember, it's all going to a composting facility. And you would want to put signage on it as well, usually in English and Spanish, for to get across the language barrier. But in any language, a paper towel is a paper towel, right? So if you have graphics on that, on the signage, then you can pretty much get that across. That just says paper towels only. So making sure that that is prevalent, and it's very kind of in your face, so that people don't walk out of there throwing their hand towels into the trash can. They know to put it into the green composting bin, or whatever color bin your compost hauler gives you in order to collect that material. So excellent way to phrase that. Believe we've got a couple more questions here. I hope I'm not missing any, y'all. Bear with me. Da, 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 da. All right, so we will keep on going with the 7 points of true certification. We've gotten through the first 3, I think, and we're on to recycling. So recycling, it talks about providing credits for your efforts around diverting paper products like your office paper, newspaper, plastics, which are typically your rigid plastics, number 1 and 2, metals, ferrous and non-ferrous, glass. Glass you have to be careful about. Sometimes glass is not accepted by your recycling hauler, and it's not processed at your local plant. So it's really important before glass goes into your recycling bin at your business, that you make sure that the recycling hauler and processor actually takes that. Sometimes they won't. And another one is, of course, cardboard. It's usually those 5 materials. Another thing that you can get points for is like recycling your electronics. At least in Texas, we've got a producer take back law that requires the original equipment manufacturer, like Dell, like Apple, HP, they have to have a take back program for electronics. So if you've got a few electronics you need to get rid of, I would go ahead and look into that take back program. But if you have a very, very large amount because you're switching all your laptops out, that's not something that's going to really be covered under the law, because it's such a bulk amount or volume of electronic products. I would look for a third party that can take those and make sure that you get certification that it was recycled properly, that it wasn't shipped overseas and dumped in a foreign country like Nigeria. So you can get those points, additional points earned based on the percentage of recyclables that you divert from the landfill and how many material types are included in that recycling category. Another is materials reduction. Of course, reduction is always at the very top of that inverted triangle. Credits in this category focus on policies and programs that reduce waste at the source. So a couple of examples could be double-sided printing, making sure all your printers within your entire building or business is um, defaults to a duplex setting, and making sure that you refill your ink cartridges rather than throwing them out and buying new. A lot of companies will allow you to refill your cartridges at like an Office Max, right? You'll bring them in and they'll refill them, or you can get the little cartridges, the little squirt bottles of ink. So online document storage would be another. Do you have your own cloud for your business, and do you store your documents in your business cloud? Of course, reusable packaging, and another example of reusable packaging might be, you know, how are you shipping materials out to your customers? If you've got a product and you're putting it in a container or an envelope that is recyclable, maybe you put something on that packaging that encourages reuse of that packaging. Maybe you've got digitized forms to where everything that your new employees are signing are digital signatures, rather than putting out an entire employee handbook that's 70 pages long, and getting them to sign on the dotted line for their employee agreements and onboarding. Maybe you've digitized everything and they go through a training program online. So these kind of points are based on quantifiable reductions in waste and toxics. So remember, things like electronics, very toxic. Lead, mercury, arsenic, very, very bad to go into landfills. They need to be recycled. So documenting what you're recycling and getting that certification back from the recyclers is a really good way to demonstrate that you've reduced the toxins in your office products. So another one would be policy. Policies really facilities should formalize their waste reduction and diversion programs through written policies and plans. So these credits are earned for having robust policies, plans, goals in place, and demonstrating quantifiable, measurable, accountable progress toward those zero waste goals. Another one is education, but let me check the chat real quick to see if we've got any other questions. So Marvin, again, thanks Marvin for participating. How much bacteria do paper towels remove from the hands versus cloth towels? I am not a virologist, and I don't know anything about bacteria, as far as how that coincides with paper towels versus cloth towels. I would say in a public setting, it takes 13 fully grown trees to make 1 ton of paper towels. I don't doubt you, but I would say for safety's sake, in a public restroom, I wouldn't encourage the cloth towels unless it's one use and it goes into a bin, and then that bin is collected and those hand towels are washed on a regular basis, and they're only put back out to the public in a public restroom setting whenever they've been properly laundered and they've been sanitized. So if that's something that your company has the capability of doing, maybe it's a hotel, and you put the towels into the sanitizing laundry process. That could work if you've got that capability and those kinds of machines that have that capacity and that ability to do that. Sure, but otherwise, your typical office building is not going to have the ability to launder cloth towels. So I would say stick to the paper towels and single-use paper towels, and collect them as compost if you're able to. Alrighty, so moving back into the education piece of the true zero waste facilities certification process. Education is critical. Look, employees can make or break any one of your programs. If you don't have employee buy-in, they're not going to use the programs properly, most likely. And so people don't want to come to work and have you wagging your finger in their face and telling them what to do. What they do want is to feel empowered and a part of the system that that promotes sustainability within your company. Think about the millennials, Gen Zs, and your Gen Alphas who are just in a couple of years, maybe 5 years from now, getting their first jobs outside of high school. They are instilled with the values of environmental justice, social accountability, and businesses that want to attract strong talent from these generational categories are really going to need to step it up whenever it comes to the um, the sustainability goals within their operational structure, and to be able to convey that to people who are coming in applying for jobs. These people want to work for a company that is doing what they say they're going to do within their sustainability policies, and they do not want to work for a company that is greenwashing their sustainability strategies. Greenwashing is saying one thing and then doing another that doesn't come remotely close to achieving the goals. It's just a placeholder, and it's just to appease um, those who want your company to do more. So the staff education really looks like um, you know initiatives through training, putting up that signage. Maybe it's in English and Spanish, it has graphics on it, and other types of awareness campaigns. This can be through your employee onboarding, meaning you can have your employees digitally sign paperwork that says, "Hey, I will, as a person working in this company, I will use these recycling and composting programs correctly. I will not cross contaminate and mix these materials. I'll make sure that what I have in my hands goes into the proper bin, and I will follow the signage. I will follow the color coding." And that's something that managers can use as leverage in order to hold employees accountable. But again, that training allows them, and every 6 months, annually, I would say the more the better for doing employee training. That really helps them come together as a team. And this is really where you start to see some employees kind of bubble up to the top of it with their interest level. And you get to start developing out a green team where they may meet once a month or once a quarter, and they'll start helping you as a management team develop out the initiatives that they want to see. So one company that we worked with in St. Louis, a very, very large manufacturing company of pet food. It's a very historic brand going back to the late 1800s. Their employees really pushed the issue from the bottom up of making sure that there was composting in the employee cafeteria, and that they could compost not only in the cafeteria, but on the floors where they're working, because a lot of them would just take their food from the cafeteria and they bring it back to their desk. They also pushed initiatives for reusable clamshells. So let's say you put, all of your salad into this plastic clamshell, and then you weigh it, and then you pay for it. You bring it back, and whenever you're done, and then you exchange it for a clean one, and then that one that was dirty goes through the wash. So it's a recycled and reuse kind of initiative that these employees pushed from the bottom up. And it was because they had a strong green team, and they made sure that their desires on sustainability programs were heard by the management, and it went to the executives, because both of those programs were actually inputted and implemented into their cafeteria system. So that was a really great way to demonstrate kind of a grassroots approach, because the awareness campaigns, and the more groups that are educated, and the number of strategies that are used in the true system, the more points that you can obtain. So I would encourage, whether it's the training, the signage, the bin color coding, the awareness campaigns, making sure the employee onboarding states specifically the recycling initiatives as well as the expectations of that employee, but also internal newsletters, signage in your elevators and in the indoor of the bathroom stalls. There's all kinds of places that you can put, the messaging to your employees to keep them motivated, to keep using the programs correctly. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of cross contamination because there's an apathy that develops. So keeping it front of mind for people using that education and empowerment is really critical. The last piece is hazardous waste prevention, and those points are earned for policies and programs that reduce hazardous waste through substitution or less toxic products, safe disposal practices, and really quantifying that using weight measurements is really important as well. So let me get back to the questions. So Scott, welcome Scott. I have one of those reusable plastic clamshells that I take to the food truck. Cool. It looks like a normal one. Yeah, it gets less concern from vendors than other types of containers. Right. So Scott, you hand them your clean container and they fill it with their food at the food truck. And then whenever you take that away, you eat from it and then you go home and wash it. Is that the process? You bring it back and do the same thing, repeat that process? Is that what I'm gathering? I'm hoping. But that's a really great way to do that reuse just on an individual level, right? We can even do this whenever, okay, good, yes. We can even do this whenever we go out to eat with, just in our personal lives, or even whenever we're with a 20-person crew from work, or maybe you're at a work convention. You can even bring along Tupperware, right? You can just, instead of asking for a to-go container, you can just say, hey, I've got my own. And you can pack up your leftover foods and bring them home, or bring them back to the hotel or wherever you're staying. But this is a really great way to kind of walk the walk, if you will. So great job, Scott. If you have any other examples of how you're being sustainable within your own life that our other viewers can take a look at, that would be great. Drop them in the comments so that we can learn from each other. This is all about value and getting broadening our horizons around the ways that we can be sustainable, not only in our personal lives, but in business. And if you're just joining, we're talking about the true zero waste rating system for zero waste certification through the U.S. Green Building Council. And we're going over the different types of points categories and what it could mean for your business. So there are some examples of facilities that have achieved the true certification. Could be, schools like I think Berkeley. There's several buildings in the Berkeley, California campus. Office parks, even stadiums. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium just got their true certification. I believe that's in Atlanta. Hospitals, all types of facilities can reduce their materials that are heading to landfill and incineration. And, true is really important for your business because A, it's a rigorous process. B, it really takes a good look at, a very in-depth look at what you're bringing into your business, where those materials can be used, reused, repurposed, refabricated, remanufactured, repaired within your business before it's even considered for recycling. So it really helps you take a look at what's coming in and are you maximizing all of the uses for that particular product before it's considered either trash, compostables, or recyclables. And one story that I have is that this same company up in St. Louis, the very large, very well-established company that makes pet food, they had an entire facility on their at their office property that only dealt with repair of their office supplies. So think about broken casters on wheelie chairs, right? And carts. Think about the broken drawer that comes out of a file cabinet. Can we repair this instead of chucking it and buying a new one? So anytime an office product broke, the maintenance crew would be called to come up to that floor and to cart it away, take it down to the repair shop, and then they would repair it and store it in order to bring it back up to that floor and into that office space specifically. So it was really great to see that they had an entire crew and an entire machine shop dedicated to repair. So they really impressed me as a zero waste advocate for the last 20 years and someone that's been in the zero waste field and doing these true certifications for our clients. That was something that I hadn't seen before, and I was really excited to kind of highlight that as their company, one of their company achievements. So True is really important, and it is an improvement over previous zero waste certifications, but it really uses material specific calculations rather than diversion rates to better assess progress, right? So there's also a focus on upstream policies that prevent waste. It's not all about what's going out the back end downstream to the recycling plant, to the composting plant. It's you get points on how are you upcycling, how are you reducing, reusing, repurposing, and repairing. And so, there's some of the latest developments. Back in April 2022, version 2.0 of True was launched. And this updated version includes kind of revised scoring, new credits focused on circularity, food recovery. Remember, we talked about how food waste has its own inverted triangle food recovery hierarchy. So food recovery further upstream, how are we reducing, repurposing, donating, working with farmers and ranchers to keep the food out of landfill and into beneficial reuse programs to reduce that landfill volume. And so again, the True certification is a little bit newer than the LEED certification, but it is still administered. They're both administered under the Green Building Certification Inc., and that is under the authority of the U.S. Green Building Council. So if you're interested in discussing true zero waste facility certification, my company, I am certified to administer that program and to help you with your waste reduction in all of these different types of categories. So if you really want to take that deep dive, go ahead and leave a comment, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. To send me just a private message is fine as well if you want to maintain a little anonymity off of the live stream comments. That's fine. But this is kind of the next wave of certifications, and there's only about 300 companies worldwide that have their True certification. Think about all the LEED certifications that are out there, millions and millions and millions of square feet worth of commercial properties that have been certified under LEED. But there's only about 300 businesses, I believe, that have been True certified. So imagine getting ahead of the competition in getting that certification, that green stamp of approval on your social media and your website and all of your press, and using that to do a green storytelling, green marketing approach to build more confidence and trust in your current client base. Build more confidence and trust in your shareholders and bringing in more investors, and to, again, recruit that top tier talent of your millennials, Gen Zs, and eventually Gen Alphas who align with environmental justice and social justice. So getting in alignment with those values and building that reputation for your company is absolutely critical to maintaining relevancy in your industry. So let me go back. Scott asks, how many true certified companies did you say there are? I believe there's about 300. Um, so I would encourage any business that already has kind of your recycling program. If you want to go further, then this is a great time to do that, especially if you have composters in the area or recyclers in the area. Just Google your local city name or county name and see what's in your local area. If you can find someone who can service your business with these additional diversion methods. Remember, the more you increase your recycling and the more you increase your food waste diversion, the less your trash bill comes down. You have to adjust here. So there is a contract renegotiation that we can help with as well. Regarding right sizing the programs for your specific business needs at your specific location, and to help you comply with any local, state laws that you may need to comply with whenever it comes to waste reduction from landfills and incinerators. So if you're unfamiliar with the local laws in your area, we can help you come into compliance as well. So again, if you see on the bottom screen here, apply today for our 8-week online Cash for Trash Zero Waste Business Academy. This is where we take you hand in hand, and we'll guide you through a whole process regarding getting your programs into place for waste reduction and recycling, composting if you have that available in your area, but also helping you get your employees trained up. So, this allows them to feel that empowerment around participating in the correct manner in your sustainability programs, so that everything is operating at its optimal peak, and that we are finding all the efficiencies and we are plugging the money leaks in your business regarding materials management. So again, if you have any interest, you can go to zerowastestrategies.com, and that's the number 0, wastestrategies.com. It is scrolling on your screen here in just a moment, so that you can connect with us, and you can, we can create a calendar, so a calendar booking, so that we can go through the steps of the process and make sure that we're a good fit for your company, and make sure that the programs that are needed are actually in your area so that you can participate. But it's a great way to really get that stamp of approval on your business, that you are going above and beyond, and you're showing your staff, your customers, your shareholders, your investors, and everybody out there who will listen in your industry that you are leading on sustainability, and you're doing so through waste reduction. Waste reduction, in my mind, is the cheapest, fastest way to any operational efficiency, period. Because it's the one that you have the most control over. So again, if you're interested, I would love to speak with you. Go ahead and book a call on our calendar through zerowastestrategies.com. Remember, that's the number 0, not the word 0. And let's see. Scott says, do you know Reggie Nayar of Innovative Waste Solutions? He's also doing waste consulting in Texas. No, I don't. But if you want to introduce us, I would be very grateful. Anyone that I can talk to in the area that is either handling and processing and hauling waste, or companies that need to have these materials carted off their property in the most effective and efficient manner. Those are the folks that I want to talk to. These would be business owners and managers, commercial property owners and managers, restaurants, food permitted businesses that really need help in optimizing their waste reduction for cost savings, driving a green marketing edge, really empowering your employees, and developing brand loyalty. I think that's really critical too, to ensure that longevity of your business within your industry. So with that, thank you all for listening, and I appreciate your time. And let me know if you have any additional questions, or if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, or go ahead and book a call through zerowastestrategies.com. Take care.